What is up, TFA? What is going on? I hope you're all doing well. Hope week 4 is treating you well. Kevin and I are going to hit you guys with the first look at the week 5 waiver wire ads. Obviously, we'll be we have 2 more games tomorrow, and then I will be updating this as needed. I'll have the article for you guys on Tuesday, the video for you guys on Tuesday, and the podcast will be hitting your podcast platform. So no reason for you guys to be missing the week 5 waiver ads. I'm going to get you guys covered across all your bases. So with that out of the way, Kev, let's just jump into it, man. Let's start off with quarterback. Kev's going to talk about some Yahoo plays. I'm going to talk about some ones that are more available on ESPN. So for quarterback, Kev's looking at Gardner Minshew at 46%, Teddy B 19% rostered, Justin Herbert doing it again, coming up short, but he had himself a nice game, 16%. Kirk Cousins, 29%. And then just to touch on some other ones, Ryan Fitzpatrick gets San Francisco. He is 28% rostered on ESPN. And then the guys that Kevin mentioned for Yahoo are widely available. So, Kev, with quarterback, who are you looking at as must-adds, and who's tickling your waiver wire fancy?
Well, I mean, Gardner Minshew really stands out going against Texas. The Texans secondary is awful. I mean, Kirk Cousins this week threw for 260 yards at a touchdown only on 22 attempts. So, with Gardner, I think he had a nice bounce-back game himself today against the Bengals, 350 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 to DJ Chark. So he made his impact felt right away coming back. So I really like Gardner Minshew going against the Texans. I think Teddy Bridgewater is another option you could go with going against the Falcons. We know the Falcons' defense, especially their secondary, is absolutely atrocious. So, this could be a nice bounce-back spot for guys like Teddy B and that offense with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. He had 276 yards and 2 touchdowns today in a game that they kind of handled from basically start to finish against the Cardinals. I think they ended up winning, 31-21, I think today. But, they got up early and kind of held that lead. So that was pretty impressive to see. Kirk Cousins is a tough one to trust, but they're getting the Seahawks this week. So they're not going to be able to run the ball like they want to. I think they're going to have to throw the ball. So, with Justin Jefferson, once again, having a really nice game again today. I think he went 7 for 75 today. So he did not find the end zone, but I think there's a lot to like there with him as well. So now with that emergence of a strong number 2 option there between him and Thielen, and also Dalvin Cook, where you can pass the ball off to, I think Kirk Cousins is at least a decent option this week. I know it's hard to trust him, but I definitely think they're going to have to be more pass heavy this week. They're not going to be able to rely on the run. Once again, they got up early in that game and just kind of leaned on Dalvin Cook. So I like all of them. I think Herbert is in play as well against the Saints. They lost Austin Eckler. It sounds like that injury, we'll get to more on the running backs, but it sounds like something that's going to be long-term for Austin Eckler. Listen, you can't run against the Saints. The Saints are still a fantastic run defense. So we'll get to that again with running backs. So I think they're going to have to air the ball out, and I think this is going to be a game they're going to have to throw the ball. So I think Justin Herbert is, and not to mention just this week, his next 5 weeks is really fantastic, actually. So, I think Herbert is a long-term option. I know that Anthony Lynn has talked about that this is Tyrod Taylor's a starter. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, bro. There's no way you're turning back on Justin Herbert, who's played really well for a rookie, over the 3 games that he's played in. So yeah, I like all 4 of those guys. I think those are great streaming options this week.
Yeah, I mentioned in the waiver video last week, the one that I did solo, that I really wanted to put Justin Herbert in my tier 1 for quarterback ads, but I just couldn't do it because if there is anybody that's going to go back to Tyrod, it would be Anthony Lynn. And just one thing to mention, you were mentioning the matchups for Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins. Like you said, it's hard to fully trust him. And Justin Jefferson went 4 for 103, by the way. But Cousins, after he gets Seattle, he gets Atlanta. Then they have a bye. Then they get Green Bay and Detroit over the next several weeks. So that is a play I like there with Kirk Cousins. Let's move it on to running back. You were alluding to some of the injuries. Obviously, Austin Eckler was carted off with a hamstring injury. Nick Chubb also went down with a knee ankle injury. We're not entirely sure of the severity on that yet, but he was ruled out pretty quickly after he left the field. And then LaShawn McCoy had an ankle injury and did not return in their game. I'm going to let you start this off, man, because you have a name that is in all caps. It is in bold. And I'll let you start off here with your number one waiver priority for the week.
It's the same guy we talked about last week, but he's still widely available. He's rostered in 33% of Yahoo leagues. And I would use, if this guy is available, I would use a lot of fab. I would use my number one waiver priority, if you had it, on Chase Edmonds. Kenyon Drake has not looked good at all, and he continued that trend again today by not looking very good at all. And Chase Edmonds did not get a ton of work, but he did have 5 receptions on 6 targets for 24 yards and a touchdown. I like Chase Edmonds. I think Chase Edmonds is going to take over this backfield. Like, I can't imagine that the Cardinals continue to stick with Kenyon Drake as the every down back. I think we could really see Chase Edmonds take over this backfield, and I think as this offense probably gets a little bit better, I know they've struggled the last couple of weeks, but I think they'll figure it out and bounce back. I think Chase Edmonds is somebody that I absolutely want. Kenyon Drake, I'm not sure if he's hurt or not. I know he was in that walking boot, and generally speaking, when guys are in walking boots, it's never a precaution. So maybe there's something more going on there that we're just not being told about, and we'll find out at the end of the year, kind of like Odell Beckham whenever he found out he had that core muscle injury that he should have had surgery on. Maybe we'll find the same thing about Kenyon Drake, because he does not look right. He does not look healthy. And so I could see them, moving away, which is exactly what they did to David Johnson last year. Kenyon Drake, we talked about this. Kenyon Drake is not under a long-term deal. This is a 1-year deal for him. So I can't imagine how much longer they're gonna keep riding Kenyon Drake. I think you could realistically see Chase Edmonds take over this backfield. So for me, like, he is the number one waiver ad this week, especially for people that have Nick Chubb. I just can't do that. So for me, it is Chase Edmonds. I know some people will maybe want to go to Joshua Kelly, who could be available, who's owned or rostered in 54% of Yahoo leagues. Justin Jackson's also widely available, only rostered in 5% of leagues. But for me, it's Chase Edmonds. And, I mean, he could be a home run, right? I mean, he could be a winning lottery ticket. If they commit to him, I think it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later. So that's why for me, it's Chase Edmonds. Now moving on to guys like Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson. Listen, I think Joshua Kelly is still going to be the 1A in this offense. But we've talked Justin Jackson is a really good running back. Like, we've seen it in short sample sizes. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And if this turns out to be a really long term issue with Austin Eckler, if this is a 4 to 6 week type of thing, right, next week, week 5, I really wouldn't want to play any of these guys against the Saints, just because the Saints are so good. If you're absolutely desperate and you have to play, something like that, if you lost Nick Chubb, we've had a lot of injuries this year. I guess you could play Joshua Kelly. He did see some targets, but I think Justin Jackson figures to be more involved in the passing game, not so much as Joshua Kelly is. But if you go past the Saints, I mean, their next 5 games, like I talked about with Herbert, it is the Saints, it's the Jets, it's the Dolphins, the Jags, and the Raiders. Like, that is a fantastic set of games coming up. So yes, let's get past this week against New Orleans, where it's really not a great matchup. But past this, like I said, if this is a long-term injury for Eckler, Joshua Kelly is somebody that I definitely would want. If I was, but I would not be surprised if Justin Jackson has a bigger workload here than we're expecting. So I do think that Justin Jackson is certainly worthy of a roster or a waiver ad this week, because I do think there is some upside there for him, and I think he can end up being the more efficient running back. So we'll see there, but I would like both of them. The other guy that kind of stood out today was Dearness Johnson for the Browns. He ended up going 13 carries for 95 yards against the Cowboys. As we know, he's not rostered anywhere. Nobody has Dearness Johnson, okay? I put 1%, but it's really 0%. Nobody had him. But we'll have to wait and see with Nick Chubb how severe this is. It didn't look good. Maybe it's only a couple of week thing. But regardless, I was surprised he got that much work. Kareem Hunt's still going to be probably the lead back here. But if he's going to get that type of workload where he can get 10 to 12 carries, depending on matchup, we know this is a team that really wants to run the football. Today, they obviously weren't able to do that, but they still got the win, put up a ton of points. But, for the most part, that is what the Browns want to do. So if you're in a deeper format, maybe like a 14-team league or something like that, Dearness Johnson's worth an ad, but I don't know if it's something I would want to do as some sort of long-term play. And then you have the guys, the handcuffs, the Tony Pollards, Alexander Madisons, Brian Hills, Darrell Williams, Jamal Williams. we're getting closer and closer to that time. We're getting bye weeks coming up. A lot of these guys are going to start to get dropped. With the carnage we are seeing on a weekly basis to the running back positions, that's just being destroyed right now. Saquon, CMC. Now we might lose Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb. Like, it is ridiculous. Every single week something can go wrong. Next week it could be Zeke. Knock on wood. Obviously, we don't want something like that to happen. But these guys should be rostered. Like, I would much rather have these dudes than some wide receiver you hope can do good, or a second tight end, or a second quarterback, or a defense. Like, these guys should not be dropped by anybody, because these guys are golden tickets waiting to happen. And as much injuries we're seeing, there's just no way I think you should be dropping anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where where you should have been adding these guys to begin with, as you're, where you're spending minimal fab, where you're using like your 4th, 5th waiver priority to get some of these guys. That way, whenever these situations arise, you're not scrambling and having to drop a shit ton of fab on these guys and having to do that in a bind. The other running back who was involved a little bit for Cleveland was Dontrell Hilliard, but it looks like Dearness Johnson is going to be the one who's getting the main run, and that looks like that's set up to be a committee approach, much like Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson. So let's move it on to wide receiver. No main injuries. I did see AJ Green walked off, kind of shaking his arm, but I didn't see anything after that. I didn't see any updates, so not entirely sure what's going on with him. But I believe that's all of the wide receiver injuries. Mike Evans was banged up. I thought that one looked worse, but he ended up coming back. But he was limping around the whole time. So someone who is widely available, who went 5 for 83 and a touchdown, was Scotty Miller, 16% roster in Yahoo leagues. I like him. For ESPN, Brandon Ayuk, Laviska Shenault are both sub 30% rostered. Greg Ward, 18% on ESPN, and that's one of those plays where it's just there's nobody else left. You have Goddard, who obviously hit IR. Alshon Jeffrey still isn't there. Jalen Rager's on IR. So Greg Ward is absolutely worth a look. He had himself a nice game last week. T. Higgins continued his showing from last week. He went 4 for 7 for 77 yards there. He's 28% rostered in Yahoo. Cole Beasley, he didn't have the yards this week, but he did have the touchdown. Traquan Smith, he's still available. Tim Patrick, Golden Tate, Zach Pascal, Darnell Mooney are all also widely available. Kev, out of this list, who are you targeting? Do you have someone out of this list that you would be putting at the top?
I think at this point you have to look at it like T. Higgins, right? I mean, he is 2 weeks in a row. He's continuing to see the usage. Their defense is not very good. They're going to continue to be a team that's going to have to throw the ball a lot, and he seems to have a real connection. And honestly, it really does feel like that he is somebody that is probably their best bet inside the red zone as well. So I like T. Higgins a lot. And I think he's somebody. I mean, looks like AJ Green is just dust, right? Like, if we're talking about something that we don't really talk a lot about is guys you can drop, like AJ Green is one of them. Okay, like he's certainly somebody that I wouldn't be like, I don't want to let go of AJ Green. Like, you can drop AJ Green. Okay, it's safe to say now we've seen enough. We're into week 5. I think guys like Brandon Cooks, if you wanted to drop, you could drop him, which is fucking insane that the fucking Texans. But hey, Bill O'Brien is going to Bill O'Brien. Traded for Brandon Cooks, right? Traded for this dude, and we're just not using them, I guess. But guys like that, I think can be dropped. So like T. Higgins is somebody that I really do like. Golden Tate, somebody that I would like to like. I would like to want to add Golden Tate, right? Sterling Shepard's out. He is their slot wide receiver. The problem is the Jets they're both bad. What am I talking about? The Jets and the Giants, doesn't really matter. They're both fucking horrible. But the Giants offense has only scored 3 touchdowns all year in 4 games, and they haven't scored one since week 2. This team is so bad, and their offense is so bad. And like Daniel One Reed Jones, like the dude just locks on somebody, and if that's not there, he's not throwing it. So, or that's who he's throwing to. He doesn't care. It's just insane to me. But I like Golden Tate. I think Golden Tate could be a decent PPR option if this offense can go. I'm assuming at some point they'll turn it around a little bit here, but. Tim Patrick, somebody that people are going to want to run to this week. He had a really big game on Thursday night, 6 for 113 and 1 touchdown on 8 targets. KJ Hamler went out. We know they don't have Cortland Sutton for the year. Noah Fant may not play, but they do not have a great matchup this week. They're going to be seeing New England. I mean, does New England? I doubt they're not going to be shadowing Tim Patrick with Stephon Gilmore, so we don't really have to worry about that. Okay, I mean, this isn't a shadow situation for them. But I think Tim Patrick as like a long-term ad, maybe somebody that's like a wide receiver 4, maybe is a decent option during certain weeks because they are so banged up. It's Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant when he's healthy, and that's probably it. So I think Tim Patrick really kind of emerged as that number 2 option there next to Jerry Jeudy. So I do like that. Scotty Miller is more of just a this week play. Sounds like Chris Godwin, even before this week, we knew that he really wasn't going to play week 5. They play Thursday night. I think he will be back the following week. So what is week 6? I think we could probably look to see Chris Godwin back after week 5. So I think at least just for one more week, Scotty Miller has some option or has some viability. Traquan, I think Traquan, even when Michael Thomas returns, which it sounds like it's going to be next week, it does sound like that. I think Traquan could end up still being a decent wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. He should be rostered. He is definitely, I think, the second best wide receiver on that team. They've lost Jared Cook. We'll see how long he's really going to be out for. But even with Michael Thomas back, I think that we can look at Traquan Smith as probably the number 3 option here. Darnell Mooney is a dude I liked heading into all of this. Like, I like Darnell Mooney. When they drafted Darnell, I liked him back whenever, during the draft time. And when the Bears drafted him, like, I was actually excited about this move. They brought in Ted Ginn. I'm like, of course, this is what coaches do. We have to bring in dusted players. But Darnell Mooney has quietly really started to look like the number 2 option here in Chicago. The problem is this offense outside of Allen Robinson just hasn't really looked that great. But I like Darnell Mooney. I think he's somebody in like a 14-team league, maybe a deep 12-team league, depending on how deep your benches are. If you needed somebody, I think I would add him. Like, Darnell Mooney is a very athletic wide receiver. He's somebody that I really liked. He went 5 for 52 on 8 targets today. So, I think that you could add him, and I would much rather own him than, some other guys people own. And with so many wide receivers that are out right now, I think it's worth a look.
Yeah, the guys that I like out of here, Scotty Miller. I think even whenever both of Godwin and Evans are healthy, I think in a pinch in certain matchups you can throw Scotty Miller in there because he seems to be the preferred 3 in their three wide receiver sets. And then Tim Patrick, you mentioned the matchup with the Pats, but after that they get Miami, KC, they have a bye, and then Atlanta. So after week 5, it opens up for them. And then the thing that makes me super salty about Darnell Mooney is that seems like that is coming out of Anthony Miller's pocket with that production and the targets. So it's a good pickup in your deeper leagues, but I can't give that too much credit just because I'm salty about it. Before we move on to tight end, we have a question from Jariah. Traded Dak and Connor for Metcalf and Deshaun Watson. Did I win the trade? Yes. Still has Josh Allen, so the Deshaun Watson in trading Dak doesn't really factor in for me. So for me, this is more or less Connor for Metcalf. So yes, you won that, buddy. You can sleep well. Not feeling it, Kev.
I'm more on the fence. Like, listen, I love DK Metcalf, but finding running backs that command the type of workload that James Conner does is not easy. And so for me, like, running backs are just much more of a premium. I mean, Dak and Deshaun are kind of a wash in my opinion. I mean, really, you could make a case that really it's Dak all day because Dak is really we know how bad that defense is, and they've had to throw the ball, and Dak has just went nuclear every single week because he's had to. I think Deshaun will get some balance. He's had some really tough matchups, and we'll start better things are coming for him, but I would probably lean more towards the running back unless you're just absolutely stacked at running back. And my second thing would be you should probably trade Josh Allen as fast as you can. I don't know why you have two quarterbacks like that unless it is a 2 quarterback league. If it's a 1 quarterback league, like, I would be moving Josh Allen as fast as I can. Or Deshaun Watson, whichever one you really feel comfortable doing, because I think both of them are pretty similar in value. So, and really, you probably get more for Josh Allen at this point, and especially for teams that really need a quarterback. Believe me, the teams that drafted Carson Wentz and guys like that are probably going to be looking for a quarterback. So, moving one of them to adding more assets is what I would look to do in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I made the assumption that if Dreyer was trading away Connor, that they had the running back position pretty locked up. And if that's the case, I still like.
Yeah, see, that's tough, right? So I have Eckler, who is now hurt.
No, you don't.
And then you have Drake, who I don't know but he's still as strong with Henry and Sanders. So and Monster. So yeah, he does have a lot of running backs, but yeah. So I guess that's not as bad. I guess you still have the depth there. Eckler should come back at some point. Henry obviously, and then Miles Sanders. I still think you still have strong there. We'll see what happens with Drake, and then Mostert should be back here before too long. So yeah, I guess he is pretty stacked. So that's not terrible then.
One more trade-ish scenario. Matthew Jong is joining us. Should I look to trade away Devonta Freeman, or are you satisfied with his productivity?
You're not going to get nothing for him.
If you can, I would.
You're going to get a I don't know, maybe a jawbreaker and 50 cents for him. You know, I mean, you're not getting a lot for Devonta Freeman right now, right? Like this team is just so bad. This offense is so bad. It's kind of what I just talked about a little bit ago. This team has scored 3 touchdowns all year. Could Devonta Freeman end up being? Because I mean, he still looks like he has a little bit of juice left in him. You know, I did watch a lot of that game today. They hit him on some dump offs, and he was able to make some moves and stuff like that. So he doesn't look completely dusted. But this offense is just so bad, so it's really hard to. You're not going to get anything for Devonta Freeman, so you might as well hold on to him, see what happens. See how this thing. I think he did get double digit. I think he got like 10 point something fantasy points today in PPR format. So, like you should be excited about that if you had to start Devonta Freeman today, because. That's about all he did today was a couple of those long receptions. So yeah, you're just not going to get a lot for Devonta Freeman. Would I drop Devonta Freeman? No, just because of the state of the running back there are right now. But I wouldn't feel great about it. But you're like you said, you're not trading nothing for him.
Yeah, 68 total yards and 4 catches. So
I will say this. I know last week we talked a lot about some guys we should be players should be trying to buy low. And the window has closed on Joe Mixon. That window was open for a couple of weeks. It was a lot of fun. You should have went out and tried to buy him at a cheap price, but now that has been fucking slammed shut after he just went absolutely nuclear today.
Yeah, that is no longer a thing. So let's move on to tight end. Let's wrap this up. The injury news here. Obviously, OJ Howard is feared to have torn his Achilles, and it's Bruce Arians is saying that it's looking like it might be a season-long injury. Obviously, if he tore his Achilles, so that's a bummer. It looks like he was finally starting to put things together. Outside of that, man, really for ESPN purposes anyway. There is not much sitting out here. The one clear add to me, if you were looking to add somebody, you were just talking about Dak Prescott. So Dalton Schultz is only rostered in 33% of ESPN leagues. So he is who I would absolutely be running out and adding if I needed a tight end. You still have guys like Eric Ebron, Austin Hooper, Mo Alley Cox. I guess if you need a dart throw, he only had like 13 or 15 yards today, but he did have the touchdown. Logan Thomas still isn't happening. The requisite numbers are there, but the production simply is not. So and then if you need someone super deep, Robert Tonyan, 6% roster, but last week something to pay attention to. Jay Sternberger finally got involved a little bit. I think he had like 3 for 36. Last year, Tonyan still outproduced him, but it is noteworthy if Sternberger is going to start eating into some of those targets and some of those routes and snaps. So, Kev, on the Yahoo front, is there anybody that's sticking out to you for an ad for the tight end position?
It's pretty rough in these tight end streets right now. Okay, it is pretty ugly right now, and it was so sad. We had so much excitement for heading into this year for the tight end position and how great it was going to be, and here we are, not even 4 weeks into the season, and there's not a whole lot to talk about right now. You know, Dalton Schultz is certainly the standout. Like the dude is crushed. I can't believe he's still that widely available in ESPN formats. I believe in Yahoo, he's 52%. So, I mean, he's still available. So, if he's out there, like 100%, you should be looking at him. Like, the dude continues to see a lot of targets. You know, guys like Austin Hooper, maybe if somebody dropped him, you could look at that, play him on certain matchups. Gronk. I know a lot of people have dropped Gronk because he just hasn't been that involved, which he continues to not really still be that involved. He only had 3 targets today, but with O.J. Howard out of the way, he could see a little bit more action here. So maybe Gronkowski if you're really needing a tight end. I do like the Robert Tonyan call. We talked about him heading into the season. I do think that he is somebody that is kind of interesting, but that's kind of it. Like it's tough. Like I tried to really go through and try to see if I could find anybody else that just kind of like a dark horse guy, but it's just not there. Like right now there's just not a lot to be excited about among the tight ends. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the list.
Yeah, it's that well dried up very quickly on the tight end front. So, like I said at the beginning, guys, going to be doing the deeper dive with the article, the video, and the podcast. So I make sure I got you guys covered on that. If you're watching right now and not yet subscribed, no matter what you're watching on, consuming this on, please go ahead and subscribe. Smash that subscribe. Smash the like. Reach out to us. We are on Twitter at @FF_authority. You can find us on IG as well. And you can also find all of our written content over at thefantasyauthority.com. Enjoy the rest of your week 4. Hopefully you guys stack up those dubs, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.